If you're thinking about running a Buddyboss membership site, where should you host it? It's a pretty important consideration, especially with Buddyboss, because it is definitely more demanding than most, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about hosting for Buddyboss sites. In the past, I have reviewed the Buddyboss theme and the Buddyboss platform. I used to use it myself, and at the time, I actually thought I called it the perfect membership site theme. Now, here we are in the earlier part of 2024, and do I still think that? Well, for the right kind of site, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. My opinion has changed about Buddyboss because, well, I don't use it anymore. But the big reason is because of the performance issues inherent with Buddyboss. Not only that, there are some aspects of the Buddyboss theme that are just harder to use, and you end up needing to put Elementor on top of it and override a bunch of things in order to customize, or you got to get real nerdy with the child theme, and I just really don't like working with it, okay? But when it comes to a membership site that is really strong on community features where you want the news feed and you want the LearnDash courses to look really nice and you want member profiles and you want groups and all that stuff, it doesn't get much better than Buddyboss. It pretty much is the best game in town. But here's the thing. I mean, a WordPress site really kind of WordPress wasn't built to do a social network. And so the demands of such a site are inherently higher. For that reason, you can't just go host a Buddyboss site anywhere you please, okay? This is not a typical theme, and it's definitely not a typical plugin. So let's talk about hosting. What I want to do here, I'm not going to share a bunch of benchmarks and stuff. I'll let other people do that. I just want to talk plain English here, and I want to talk from my experience because I've spent a lot of time with the Buddyboss theme and with the Buddyboss platform. I've built many membership sites with it, and like I said, I used to use it for myself, but I've done a lot of work with Buddyboss on behalf of clients. And I just want to show you some, talk to you about some observations here with regard to the hosting. First of all, let's talk about the typical shared hosting from the likes of Bluehost, GoDaddy, Hostinger, which is a little better than average for shared hosting. Let's look at SiteGround. Generally speaking, I would not host a Buddyboss site on any of these, okay? Bluehost and GoDaddy, knock them out of the park right away. They suck. Don't use those companies for hosting. SiteGround's pretty good, all right? I'm not going to lie. They are pretty good, but you may still have some performance issues with a Buddyboss site. I would not be surprised at all. So it's a matter of power. You get what you pay for. Any host that you're going to go in there and you're going to say, I'm going to enroll for $2.99 a month, and even if it goes up after a year or two, I don't care. That's still bulk level commodity web hosting. You get what you pay for. I would generally not put a Buddyboss site on such a thing because you're probably going to find that it feels really slow. Let's talk about a level up from hosts like that, where we start getting into some of the stuff powered by Google Cloud and stuff like that. So here we're talking about things like maybe WP Engine, we're talking about Kinsta, we're talking about perhaps something like WPX hosting, and I would also include my favorite, the host that I use, which is Rocket Hosting. Now here's the thing, as much as I love these companies, you still might have issues with Buddyboss. It doesn't mean it won't run well, because here's the thing, Google Cloud does give a pretty good amount of resources for your site. They're pretty powerful, but some of these companies, the performance that they advertise is very dependent on caching. Okay, and with a very dynamic membership site like Buddyboss, you pretty much can't use caching. There's a lot there you just can't cache, okay? And for that reason, you can't use some of that stuff. You have to rely on the raw power, okay? And so while those companies are going to definitely be better than something like Hostinger or Bluehost or something like that, you still might have issues, okay? So I love Rocket Hosting. It's what I use all the time. It runs Buddyboss sites pretty well. Is it ideal? No, because I have seen better. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. But and I've seen Buddyboss run on a Kinsta hosting, runs fairly well. But you just got to realize you're not going to get the full performance package of these hosts because they're so reliant on the caching, and you can't use the caching. And so that's definitely a factor. On that last piece, I just want to make a couple of points. First of all, you can use caching on a Buddyboss site, but keep in mind it's only going to apply to the people in the public that are not logged in. So, you know, the blog and stuff like that. But being that most of what Buddyboss is doing is dealing with members, okay, people who are logged in, people who are looking at news feeds and stuff like that, you can't cache any of that stuff. It runs differently. The second thing is, with regard to those companies that I just mentioned, my favorite by far is definitely Rocket Hosting. They're really good. They've got the best support I've ever dealt with. They do run Buddyboss really well. But there are a few little things about Rocket Hosting that are not set up specifically for a Buddyboss site. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Not specifically about Rocket, but where I think you might want to look if you want to do a really good Buddyboss site. All right, the next option, and it's definitely popular, and that is to go with a virtual private server or a VPS, okay? And so typical providers of this might be something like Cloudways. Now, I have done a lot of Buddyboss sites on Cloudways. Generally speaking, they do run fairly well, but here's the thing. You do need to beef that horsepower up. So if you're going to use a virtual private server, you can't get some low-end virtual private server. I would say a minimum would be to have 2 processor cores, and you want to have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM on that server. You're probably going to find you want to go even higher than that. And the thing is, if you go through Cloudways, you're paying double what the server actually costs, so expect that hosting bill to start piping up there really quick. But that's just the nature of it. Virtual private servers are nice in some ways because all the server horsepower is dedicated to your site. The problem is you generally have lower threshold for server horsepower than something like Google Cloud. When you're on the cloud, you're going to have way more capacity that could be used even if you're not using it. Whereas if you're on a virtual private server, you got what you got, okay? So there's pros and cons there. But what I will see on Cloudways specifically is that even on a 2 processor, 4 gigabyte server, sometimes you're clicking around, especially in the back end of a Buddyboss site, and it just feels a little sluggish. If you up it to the next level up, it gets a little bit faster. The other thing with Cloudways you got to keep in mind that the tech stack that they install to the server is not the ideal setup. It is running a more old school setup with Apache and stuff like that. They're not running Lightspeed, which is something I would recommend. And so it's not ideal. Cloudways works fairly well. It's just not ideal. Now, if you want to do things a little bit more geeky with a virtual private server, go over to like DigitalOcean or Vultr, get a high frequency virtual private server, use that, and then you can manage that virtual private server through GridPane. You can go to Xhost, which is the new one from the Fluent Ninja people, and it works pretty well that way. It's just keep in mind that you're going to get the horsepower that you pay for and no more than that. There's not as much room for scale, and so you're going to have to self-manage a bunch of things. I would probably recommend you run the thing through Cloudflare, through your DNS through Cloudflare, because that will help a little bit. Make sure you've got caching turned on for the public parts of the site. That will help. But just keep in mind things are... Oh, and by the way, definitely put object caching on the virtual private server for your site. You're going to want it for a Buddyboss site. But those are the trade-offs with virtual private servers. It is really popular for Buddyboss sites, works pretty well, but it leaves a little bit more in your hands. There's no doubt about it. Okay, now let's talk about where I think you might want to look. Now keep in mind this is not an official endorsement. Okay, it's not. I'm not doing this video for affiliate commissions or anything like that. I just want to let you know what I have seen. I want to let you know about rapid hosting. Now, rapid hosting, the reason why it performs really well for Buddyboss sites is because it was built by Buddyboss, okay? Makes sense, right? Now, here's my experience with Buddyboss, with the rapid hosting. I have a client and who was using Buddyboss, and in fact, at the time, I think she's backed off from it. She was going to go full into the app and everything, having them develop the mobile app. She was going the whole thing with Buddyboss. Now, she was on Cloudways because I was hosting her on Cloudways at the time. And what I went and talked to her about speeding up the site because we were both frustrated that it was slow. I was converting a lot of my clients from Cloudways over to Rocket Hosting. However, we had seen Rapid Hosting, and she's like, she was intrigued by it. So we went ahead and tried it. And wow, is her site fast. So that is my direct experience with Rapid Hosting from Buddyboss, is that it was a radical transformation in speed going from Cloudways, and she had the 2-processor 4 gig of RAM server, by the way, switching it over to Rapid, same exact site, and everything sped up drastically. The back end is snappy, and it's way snappier, by the way, than I've seen Buddyboss operating even on Rocket Hosting. Rocket Hosting is quite snappy when it comes to Buddyboss, but it is faster on Rapid. Why? Because they've got the ideal tech stack specifically for the tool that their people built, which is Buddyboss. And so it works really, really well. They call it the highest performance managed WordPress hosting on the planet. A little braggadocious, I'm going to say right there, but I will just say from my just casual observation, Buddyboss performs really well with these people. It really does. They've got the object caching is just enabled. They've got opcode caching. They've got the ideal tech stack on the server, and it just runs Buddyboss really well. So here's the thing. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. Check out Rapid Hosting. This is not an official endorsement. I'm just saying if you're going to go the extra mile with Buddyboss and you really want to have a good Buddyboss site, why not consider hosting it with the same people who also built the thing? And it just is pretty solid hosting, there's no doubt. Now, can I speak to their support? No, I can't. It's a pretty new company, so I'm sure some things are still getting systematized behind the scenes and stuff like that. But they do offer the things that you would want, you know, one-click staging, I mean, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it seems like a good host, even though it's young. That's about what I got to say about that. So I would definitely check out Rapid Hosting. It's at rapid.cloud. And if you're going to run a Buddyboss site and you want to have all the features turned on and you want to not run slow, I would definitely check this thing out. In terms of pricing, it's not the cheapest out there, but that's the thing. I mean, the startup plan is running, it looks like as of now, running $84 a month. That's it annually. It goes to $101 a month for monthly billing. So, yeah, this isn't cheap. But here's the thing. You're using Buddyboss. Buddyboss is not for the faint of heart. It's not your average WordPress theme. It's not your average WordPress plugin. It does a lot of things, and you're trying to turn your membership site into a community-driven platform, essentially a social network that has a lot of requirements. It's just the way that it is. So if you're not willing to pay more for it, don't use Buddyboss. You know, why have the site sit there and look all fancy but perform like a turtle on your average hosting? And that's what's going to happen if you're using Buddyboss with all the stuff turned on. It's going to perform not all that great because it's just beefy and you're not giving it enough power to breathe. And that's just the truth about using Buddyboss and the hosting requirements. So check out Rapid Hosting, rapid.cloud. If you want to go with a VPS, that's fine. Just realize it's going to be a little bit more of a manual process. I think if you went over to Rapid, you just want to deal with all that. Okay? It's going to be easier, going to be more hands-off, and that's the way that it is. Okay, so that's that. That's my commentary about Buddyboss and its hosting requirements. Now, again, this was just plain English. I'm just talking based out of experience here. I'm not going to sit around and do a bunch of testing. You can go out and review that and read the reviews if you're so inclined. what my experience is real world. It's just because I've built a lot of these things, okay? So that's the way that it is, and you know, I understand that Rapid is probably a little high price for some people. It's not your only option. I think a VPS would probably be your second choice, okay? If you need some help, if you're already running a Buddyboss site and you're finding it a little sluggish, keep in mind it might be okay on the front end, but where a server really starts to show what it can do is usually when you're surfing around WP admin in the back end and you're like, you click on things and it's like, damn, it takes forever. That's where it really starts to show. So I can try to help you out there if you've got an existing Buddyboss site and the plans at Rapid just seem a little bit uppity for you. Hit me up. Maybe I can help you speed up that Buddyboss site because I've dealt with it in various environments. If you're on one of the little $2.99 hosting, don't even bother to contact me. You know, just upgrade, okay? Because that's crap hosting, especially for Buddyboss. And get with something real. Like I said, I've worked with it at Cloudways, works pretty well. If you'd like to use a different VPS manager and get the VPS directly, you can do that as well. But hit me up. Maybe I can help you out with some of that nerdy stuff and we can speed up your Buddyboss site. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.